All right. So I did type up some of like the basic stuff, mainly going over the interface. It's kind of boring. Basically, when you first open it, this is what it'll look like. They call this the 3D view. And you can see you have a cube. Besides this, you also have a camera. That's this thing. A lamp. That's your light source by default. And all of these different panels you can change. See this one. Actually, forget what that one actually is. Yeah, properties. That's what it is. So yeah, when you're in here, you can click and drag things to resize them. Over here, you have different tool options. This is called the outliner. And then you have different properties in here. And then along the middle, you have some basic menus for adding, controlling your objects, and you can switch between object mode, edit mode. You can see when you go into edit mode, you have the option to select vertices, faces, or edges. Along with a bunch of other stuff that I won't get into right now. Along the very bottom, you have the timeline that's used for your animations. Let's see what else. Yeah, T and N, we'll bring those up. These properties are specific to whatever object you have. So if I click on the camera, it changes. I can go in and like move it to different locations. And Control Z undoes and does stuff. Camera controls, kind of hard to get used to. If you're ever not sure how to do something with the mouse, you can do Control F, and then it controls like a first-person shooter. So you use WAS and D to turn around, move the mouse to aim. Q and E goes down, up. Then you can just left click to set it wherever you want. I think that's really helpful if you're in the camera view, and then you can do Control F and frame your shot up however you want. And then when you want to render an image, for example, that's the view from the camera. And so you know exactly what it's going to look like. And you can see it when you do render image, it switches your 3D view to the rendered view. So you go down here and click, switch it back to 3D view. And then you can change your camera view back to a different angle. If you don't use Control F, or Shift F it is, you have to use the mouse. If you use the middle wheel click, you can rotate around whatever you have selected. Or you can do Shift middle mouse click to pan around, and scroll wheel to zoom in and out. And then kind of weird to get used to, but you select things with the right mouse button rather than the left. Get into the rest of that in a bit. So what I'm going to do is just make fonts. So to start, I'm going to do Shift S or snap my 3D cursor. That's this little reticle back to the center of the 3D view. Add a cube. Yeah. A circle. And then whenever you add a mesh down here, you have a couple different options. For circles, you can change the number of vertices. You can do it kind of roughly just by clicking and dragging left and right, or you can type in maybe you want 16 and go with 12. And so that's just a set of edges right now. In order to make that a face, I'm going to hit F. In edit mode, that is, we'll hit F, and then I'll get a face. And I'm going to hit S in order to scale it. Scale it by 2. And then go back into object mode. This red line is the x-axis. I'm going to rotate 90 degrees. And then the whole thing is radius of 2. So I'll move it up 2 units. So the bottom's 0. When it's just a face, it's kind of hard to tell which way the normal vector is. I'm gonna go down here and hit the face normal and make it a bit longer. Yeah, so that's the way that if I were to go this.
Perspective?
What?
How do you get the camera perspective? Control F or something?
Yeah, so on laptops it's a little funky because the number row is by default used to switch between layers, which is these different things. So if you switch layers, you kind of switch between what you're looking at. That orange dot means there's something there, so I'm going to stay in this first layer. If you go to File, then User Preferences, then over to Interface, maybe it's not Interface. Yeah, okay, it's an Input, and then Emulate Number Pad. So like me, I don't have a number pad on my laptop. So if you check that box and then hit Save User Settings, you can use your number pad to switch between views. Like that's 1, 2, kind of incrementally change it. 5 switches between orthographic and perspective.
What's input under?
So yeah, File, User Preferences, and Input. You can change a bunch of the options. If you really wanted to select with the left click, you can change that setting. But I think another thing that isn't selected by default is rotate around selection. That's in the interface menu. And that way it's rotating around the circle right now rather than the 3D cursor. I think it is by default. Okay, so yeah, once you have your number pad emulated, you can hit 0 on the number line and that goes to the camera. And then I'm Control Fing to move it around. And if I render that image, I think that's just black because the lamp is in a weird spot. Yeah. I had the lamp there. It. So it's lighting up both sides. I will render the image again. And I think that's the normal side. If I went and move my camera over here, take its black really quickly and render image. It looks the same. I wasn't expecting that. Okay, bad example. I forget where the option is. Yeah, backface culling, that's what it is. So here I'm looking at it from what it views as the inside, so I can see through it. If I go the other side, the normal vector is coming out, so it's drawing that face. All right, so then in order to build this up a little bit, I'm going to select that face of the circle. I can hit E to extrude it out. You can see in the lower left of the 3D view, it gives you a value based on how much you're dragging it. I usually don't, just kind of drag, because I like to go by specific values. So I'll just hit 1. It'll change the value. If you type something like 6, it'll go out 6. You can do like negative 0.5, and then normals will be all weird because it extruded backwards. Let's go. One out. And you can see now we have a 3D shape. And all of our normals are going out, which is good. If I hit E right now, we can see it. It's the same thing. What I want to do just for the shape that I want, I'm going to hit I. That'll make an inset face, so it's in that same plane that the original one was in, but you can make it smaller. Let's go something around there, like 0.5. And then we have a separate face. Then I'm going to make another little tier by extruding out 0.5 with then from here I'm going to do that same thing, except make it quite a bit smaller. Go with 1 and extrude that out again. 3 looks pretty good. All right, and then in order to kind of turn where I want my sconce to go up, I'm going to select this top vertex. So I'm still in edit mode. Went over here and clicked on vertex select. And then you can right click on whatever vertex you want. The top one, then you can do Shift S and move the 3D cursor to the selected point. And then when you do Shift A to add a cylinder, it'll bring it in right at that point. And just to match the same style, I'm going to go with 12 vertices. Kind of difficult to say what radius that's at. So I'm going to go with, switch my perspective a little bit. Straight on view, and I'm in orthographic mode to line things up. To click and drag, you can see that you can just see the other vertices behind it. So that's roughly the same diameter cylinder. And this depth option, I'm going to make that 3 maybe. And then the last thing to do is move it up a bit. So if it's 3 deep, I think I said, yeah, half of that would be 1.5. So if I go 4, it's pretty close. There we go, and then move it back a bit. You can see those vertices are just on top of each other. Then in order to fill this in, I'm going to go vertex select. There we go. So yeah, when they get right on top of each other, you don't usually want to leave geometry that's kind of just duplicating. So what I went in is I merged those two vertices together, and then I can select faces. I can select 3 points to get a unique plane, and then hit F to create a face there. Yeah, one thing to be careful of is when you're making faces with more than 3 points, you're not guaranteed to get a smooth plane, because the cylinder is just 90 degrees from that one. These end up being flat, but that doesn't always happen. So sometimes you might need to use triangles rather than trapezoids in this case. For whatever reason, that one face ended up backwards. So you can see it's invisible from here and the whiskers going that way. If you're inside it, it's drawing it, which is not what you want. So I'm going to find the menu I'm looking for. Yeah, mesh, normals, you can flip the normals and then be the right way around. I'm just gonna go through, make a bunch of faces. In order to select multiple vertices at once, I'm just shift right clicking. And then you can select groups. What I'm also going to do is right click on both of these faces, because it's going to end up inside the object, so there's no point in having them there. I'm just going to select them, hit X to delete the faces, and then those will go away. You can do that same thing for that face. And no, it's a back face. Don't want to do that. Right. Back into vertex mode. And that's that. Getting kind of ridiculous with those long whiskers, so shorten them a little bit. And then we just have this top bit left to do. So I'm going to select that face. I want to create kind of a bowl shaped, so I'm going to extrude up 1 unit. And if I scale this, just hit S on the keyboard, then you can careful not to go backwards, or else funky stuff like that starts happening. You can scale it up. I'm gonna go with 4. That looks pretty good. And then I'm going to recess the inside a little bit. So I'm going to make another inset face. Just hit I. Can go in maybe 0.25. You left click to confirm that action, and then make another. First, I'm going to switch to top-down view. And then I'm going to go to this box here. Changes the viewport shading is what it's called. So right now it's in solid. If I change it to wireframe, you can see that part underneath. So if I make another inset face with I, go roughly the same size. Go back to the sideways view. Just translate that down. And around there looks pretty good. Change viewport shading back to solid. And you can see we have a nice bowl on the top. And then what I'm going to do next, double click on this and name it something appropriate. It's this class. And I'm going to go over here, this little triangle piece, not the triangle piece, the circle. This is where your materials are. So add a new material slot, make a new one, and call it sounds. And you can change the diffuse color. You can see when you do that, the color of the object changes. I don't think that's going to fit with the theme of our game very well, so I'm going to override that.
I don't know. You can.
Kind of a brass color looks okay. Make it a little darker. And let's see how that looks. That's pretty good. Back to the 3D view. And I'm just gonna move this back. And we have a sconce. Thinking maybe I'm gonna make this back part slightly darker. So I'm going to call this the sconce stem. Make another one. Call this sconce body. I'm going to just get this hex value. I'm gonna go to the new one. Paste that in there. And then darken it ever so slightly. I'm going to it's what I did there. Things with circles like this, you can see there's kind of a loop that goes around. So if you hit Alt and then select with the right mouse button, you can get a loop. So basically you can kind of select stuff. So when you're kind of like closer to this side, it'll select in that direction. If you Alt right click towards this edge, it'll go around the other direction. So I'm just going to Shift Alt right click towards the edge of all those, and you can really quickly select those things. I'll right click on this other material, hit Assign, and you can see it has a different color now. I'm just gonna go and make sure I save this. Sure. Oops, not an animation. Do you guys have questions? Are you following along?
I kind of started it and then it stopped working, so I made my own thing. And then I quit that one and made a different thing. And now I'm trying to make a castle. The castle's not very nice.
Alright. Let's start a new one. And keep the cube, I suppose. You finding your way around the interface, okay?
It's decent.
It's kind of a lot.
Found my way to the Python terminal, and
Oh yeah.
nothing really works like regular Python. I don't know what the arguments are or anything.
I haven't played around with this too much. Basically, if you drag the top bar down, I don't know if it'll let me do it like this, yeah. Whenever you do something like
You can see it
translate
in the
this up,
Python terminal, or-
it'll give you this command.
Yeah, I know.
So if I go, I'm gonna collapse some of this stuff. There, BPY and Blender Python control space model complete.
What does that do?
So basically, the green are different things you can put after it. Like here, when I did the transformation, did ops, so I'm gonna do OPS control space, and then you have a bunch of different operations that you can do.
What was it? .bsl or something?
Yeah, so Blender Python BPY dot, and then OPS for operations.
I think I opened the wrong constant. Yeah, that's the system constant. Not like CMD, like the something through different.
It should be, if you click on this window button, whatever you want to call it, and then go Python console.
File and render.
It should be way at the top, probably. If you
Oh, I
don't
see
see
it,
that.
yeah.
Let's do dot mesh dot. I want to do. Let's try dot bevel.
I'm like when I think you.
I don't know. I haven't done that much, so I'm kind of clueless as to how that's very helpful, but what's up we do? Let's make some columns, shall we? That back on the ground. And to make the Z scale 6. Maybe not quite 6. 3 That's a nice number. Increase the dimension slightly. Yeah. That's a pretty big column. One tool I find really helpful, if you go to edit mode and then face select, can select all 4 of the sides and then go to subdivide. It will create smaller faces. So I'm going to make 4 cuts like that. Then from there, when I have that loop selected, that's Alt right click. I can do what's called a loop cut. So cut along that purple line. Theoretically. All right, so then I'm going to do that same thing for all the sections. Loop cut, 3 different cuts. And then you end up with lots of squares. Oops. I'm going to hit C to do a circle select. And then you can left click and select a bunch of stuff at once. Right click to go out of it. And then I'm going to hit X and dissolve those faces into one at the top, just because I don't want that to be multiple faces. Oops. Just kind of following a kind of brick pattern. Oh, that's not the one.
What does G do?
G.
Yeah, seems like it's open.
That's the translate key, yeah. So if you hit A, just select the whole thing, and then G, I could go like 1 unit over. It's kind of funky when you select like one face and hit G and then move it. You can hit like Z and then it'll constrict it to that axis.
I select different faces.
Um,
Because your faces are different objects.
yeah, so edit mode and then this face select, right click on whichever face you want. Maybe I wanted this top face and you can scale it up. I wonder faces. So many shortcuts I never remember.
Control tab makes everything blue. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I used to hit F and then it will switches. Probably not making a face in the same, deleting the other cases, but I don't know. So that's 2 sides down. Figure out how you do something, it just kind of becomes tedious. But
Trying to that's what we do.
Right.
What are you making?
Like a stone column.
I think there's an elephant project. Like straight up an elephant. I think it's a monkey.
Oh, I talking about Suzanne.
Yeah, I think I don't Suzanne.
It's called Suzanne the monkey.
What is Suzanne? It's definitely Suzanne, yeah.
Yeah, so like
I got like 14 of them.
when you subdivide, it ends up looking really flat. So what I do with stone patterns, I'll create. Let me do that. I'm going to select all of the faces that are the same shape. And if I'll work on yeah, that doesn't look great. Doesn't look great either.
You've been making like animations and stuff like this, right?
Yeah, I haven't done it too much. That's what this part at the bottom is. Called the timeline. I'm not really sure why you'd want to do this particular example. You can go into object mode. I'm just going to save this in case I mess something up severely. All right, so any of these properties, basically, location, rotation, scale, dimensions, not animate. Okay, so like here, I'm at the first frame. If you hit I over the property, it'll turn yellow like that, and you have a what they call a keyframe at 0. If I go to 30, you can see this turn green. You can move it, and then you want to scale it down. So I should probably move these. I'll move to 30. move it slightly. And rotate it 90 degrees. And make it like in each direction. And then, so that's the second keyframe. If I go to 60, I can move it again. To make another keyframe. And then I'll go to 90. So 003 is my amount. And then since I only have a short animation, I'm going to make it 90 frames long. Then in your render settings, you can set the frame rate. I'll go with 30 frames per second. And then you can hit play, and you can see it automatically interpolates all of those frames in between. And then since you have an animation, you can go to render animation. And this will look really weird because my camera's not set up to see the whole thing, but you have a bunch of different settings for rendering these things that I haven't done that much with it. Yeah, and you can go play rendered animation, and it'll play it as a movie. You can see it's counting through all the frames. I actually have documents.
Did you take a Udemy course?
Yeah, I have done a little bit of Udemy tutorials. This is more complicated, but it's Tyler's favorite. Yeah. I don't actually really care about that file. Just gonna go back to this. Mm-hmm. 35 minutes on my computer battery timer. All right. Stop, I suppose.